All right, let's get right into it. Today we're taking a hard look at a domestic violence charity called Next Step. We've got our hands on their 2016 annual report, but we've also got a series of public emails that make some incredibly serious allegations about how they spend their money. So let's follow the money and see what's really going on. And this quote right here from one of those emails, it just cuts straight to the heart of the matter. The accusation isn't just about messy accounting. It's that the whole system is built to make money from a crisis, instead of actually helping the people caught in it. So who is Next Step? Well, on paper, they're a publicly funded project in Maine. Their mission is to help victims of domestic violence. But as we're about to see, when you put that mission statement right next to the numbers from their own financial reports, a very different picture starts to emerge. We're going to unpack all of this by going directly to the source materials. We're not dealing with rumors here. We're looking at the charity's own annual report, side by side with the critical analysis that blew this whole thing wide open. You know what they say. If you really want to understand what an organization is about, you follow the money. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's start at the top, with their total revenue for the 2015-2016 fiscal year. So, Next Step pulled in over $1.1 million. That is a significant chunk of change for a local charity. But the real question isn't just how much they made, it's where did that money come from? And wow, here it is. Just look at those numbers. Nearly $1 million of their funding came directly from government grants and contracts. Let's be crystal clear about what that means. This operation was overwhelmingly funded by you, the taxpayer. Which leads us, quite literally, to the million-dollar question. If taxpayers are footing the bill for this organization, where did all that cash actually go? Let's flip the page and look at their expenses. Now, according to the people who raised the alarm, this is where the story gets really troubling. The way the expenses are broken down, well, it raises some pretty fundamental questions about what this charity's true priorities are. Get this, the single largest expense, by an enormous margin, was payroll and benefits. For their 17 staff members, they spent over $800,000. To put that in perspective for you, that breaks down to an average compensation package, that's salary plus all the benefits, of nearly $48,000 per employee for that year. Okay, so keep that $800,000 payroll number locked in your head. Now look at this. The total amount spent on what the report itself calls direct client services, things like actual tangible aid for victims, was just over $17,000. This is just wild. This comparison comes straight from their own report. The organization spent almost the exact same amount of money on office supplies as it did on direct financial help for the people it's supposed to be serving. And when you see it laid out visually like this, it's just staggering. Payroll and operating costs eat up almost the entire budget. And that little sliver, that tiny 1.5% slice of the pie, that's what actually went to helping victims directly. For critics, this chart says it all. But the accusations here go way beyond just one charity's questionable budget. The critics argue that this financial structure isn't an accident. They claim it's a feature, not a bug, of a much larger self-serving system. The term they use is an intake pipeline. The theory is that organizations like Next Step exist less to provide things like shelter, counseling, or food, and more to feed a steady stream of cases into the legal system, which benefits other parties. So here's how this alleged money funnel is supposed to work. Step 1, victims are nudged toward taking legal action. Step 2, this creates billable hours and caseloads for lawyers in the court system. Step 3, the advocacy groups, funded by grants, keep this pipeline full. And the final step, victims are often left without the practical, real-world resources they need most. Okay, that is a very heavy accusation. So to be fair, let's go back to the annual report and see how Next Step presents its own work and its own impact. Now, according to their own data, Next Step served 916 people, handled thousands of calls, and sheltered 45 individuals. But what's really interesting here is that nearly half, 423 of the 916 people served, received court advocacy, which seems to line up perfectly with the critics' point about an intense focus on the legal system. And the narrative in the report, it paints a very different picture. It's full of success stories, like this quote from one of their educators. They describe a dedicated, collaborative team that's effectively meeting the needs of the community. They present an image of an absolutely essential service. So you've got these two completely different stories being told by the exact same set of documents. This brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the question of transparency and accountability. And here's the kicker. According to the source emails, within a week of these financial questions being raised publicly, the link to this very annual report on the Next Step website suddenly stopped working. It just led to an error page, an action that critics claim was a deliberate attempt to hide the very data we've just been looking at. And that's where we'll leave it. The documents show this massive contrast between a mission of service and a budget that seems to be all about internal costs. It really forces us to ask a much bigger question. When an organization runs on our tax dollars, what level of transparency and accountability do we, the public, have a right to demand?